everybody, welcome to Real Rebel. Today I am going to list off my top 11 favorite horror films of all time. Now, I'm not saying that these are the best horror films of all time. I'm saying these are my personal favorites. So, yeah, disclaimer if you're mad. Meh. Number 11, The Descent. This movie is one of the scariest movies I have ever seen. I am absolutely terrified of being trapped. There's a group of women who go spelunking in underground caves, and immediately right off the bat when they're going underground and into these tunnels, I am hyperventilating and freaking out because that is just scary enough for me. You know, and of course they get closed in down there and I'm like, oh my god, how are they gonna get out? Oh my god. And then there's these creatures that are in there. And at the time I had a beautiful lilac point Siamese cat named Tobin, named after Tobin Bell, the actor who played Jigsaw in the Saw movies. And she was kind of like a slinky little white little creature. Well, in the movie The Descent, the creatures in these underground caves are slinky little white little slithery characters. And oh my gosh, I remember after watching The Descent and being freaked out, I get into bed, ready to have some nightmares, and Tobin jumps up on the bed and I was like, ah! She looked at us like, what? Number 10, The Abominable Dr. Phibes. It starred Vincent Price, who is seeking revenge against all of the people that he blames for his wife's death after a grisly car accident. And so basically, one by one, he finds the people who were involved in the care of his wife after she was in this car accident, and he proceeds to kill them in very, very grotesque ways. And the movie is very atmospheric. There's beautiful music that's in it, and Vincent Price, this has got to be one of the best roles that he played in his career. He's funny and he's terrifying at the same time. Great movie. Number 9, Psycho. This was the Alfred Hitchcock classic movie. It stars Anthony Perkins as the psychotic Norman Bates, the mama's boy with a taste for murdering young ladies in the shower. And after that shower scene, then Norman Bates becomes the focus of the movie. Just a great classic horror film. Number 8, Friday the 13th. Now, the original Friday the 13th, the villain is actually not Jason Voorhees that we think of him as in the hockey mask. It's actually his mother. She blames all of the camp counselors for the death of her son in Camp Crystal Lake. So when Camp Crystal Lake is reopened many years after this drowning, she comes out and she starts killing camp counselors. It's got a young Kevin Bacon in it. But I love the whole series, especially 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7. Number 7, Terrifier. I've mentioned Terrifier several times on this channel. You've got Art the sadistic clown. I think it's Art the clown. The actor who plays him, David Howard Thornton, just does a perfect job of creating a character who is interesting, fun to watch, and you basically just end up cheering for that guy by the end of the movie, and he rocks. Number 6, P2. So if you've watched my top 11 favorite movies of all time of any genre, P2 is on that list. It's on my top 11 horror films, and it's going to be in my top 11 Christmas films because it takes place at Christmas, and by goodness, it's an amazing movie. I love movies where people are trapped. This young woman is trapped in a parking garage, and she has to go against this sadistic, crazy killer. She has to outsmart him, and she doesn't fall into the typical stupid things that people do in horror films. She's actually very intelligent, so it's completely refreshing to watch. There's lots of comedy in the movie. The villain is quite hilarious. I love those movies where someone gets trapped somewhere and has to figure their way out of it. Number 5, Evil Dead 2. And I believe Evil Dead 2 is on my top 11 favorite movies of all time as well. And there's a great reason for that. It's so good. It has a perfect blend of comedy and horror, and it has Bruce Campbell in it. It is, I think, number 1, it's fun to watch. Poor Ashley J. Williams is in this movie, and he watches his girlfriend in this cabin in the middle of the woods become a deadite. And then he becomes a deadite momentarily, and he's basically fighting off this evil all night. And anyone who comes to the cabin, they basically all end up deadites. He's just in a world of crazy. It's funny, it's action-packed, and from start to finish, that's one thing about Bruce Campbell's movies that is always consistent. It's just action, action, one thing after the other. It's exciting, and he is fun to watch and follow. Number 4, the classic Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance. The Halloween movies are perfect, and not all of them. I take that back. The first one is excellent. The second one is a decent follow-up. Halloween 3, it diverges. It goes a different direction. It takes a chance. A lot of people think it failed miserably. I've seen the movie. It is extremely creepy. The last 20 minutes of it are something you will never forget if you see it, so I think it's worth watching. Halloween 4 goes back to the old Michael Myers character, and that one's really great. Anything after Halloween 4, I'm not really into, except I did like the recent one that came out with Jamie Lee Curtis again. That was pretty fun. You've got, the perfect setting for Halloween. They make popcorn. They've got jack-o'-lanterns, and you've got leaves everywhere, even though it's probably filmed in California and there is no such thing as fall. And then you've got Donald Pleasance, who's almost crazy himself, trying to catch Michael Myers, the escaped patient from the mental hospital. It's so much fun to watch, and in fact, my husband and I almost had kind of like a Mandela effect, because there were some scenes that we remembered seeing, but then when we later watched, a DVD or a Blu-ray, we're like, wasn't there a scene where you got to see Michael Myers, as a child in the mental hospital with Donald Pleasance as his doctor, and there was like this big room that had like these semicircular desks that wrapped all the way around it where they're talking about Michael Myers. So what happened was that when they released the film to be viewed on television, they actually filmed extra scenes to make it longer, so that it would fill the 2-hour runtime. So those scenes actually do exist, and I do have them. Halloween television version, so it's about an extra 12 minutes, and I really like actually what they did with it. Number 3, The Shining. Also on my top 11 list. So Stanley Kubrick takes Stephen King's story, makes it into a masterpiece. I love that hotel. I love those opening shots where they're going past the lake and the mountains, and it's that music. I often think about like how fun would it be to kind of like spend a winter in this hotel, in isolation. You get to eat big gigantic cans of peaches, and they've got all the food that you could want in there, and just like all nestled in the cold. Well, if you're spending that time in isolation with a crazy dude like Jack Nicholson, it's not gonna turn out well. Number 2, Candyman. I've done a review on Candyman. Candyman was in my top 11 list of my favorite films of all time. I think what I really love about it is how real it feels. I mean, it deals with an urban legend, but you've got Virginia Madsen playing this Helen character who, she's a real person. You look at her and you're just like, yep, she's a master's student. She's, trying to write her thesis. That brings a real world element to it. And then of course, Candyman, Tony Todd. He's so mysterious, and he's got that booming voice. You've got Cabrini Green, which just adds even more to the real world horror feeling to it. And I adore this movie. Please watch this movie. If you haven't ever seen it, you've got to do yourself a favor. So, number 1, my favorite horror film of all time is The Exorcist. This movie is excellent. It came out in 1973, directed by William Friedkin, starring Ellen Burstyn, I'm not saying that right, Linda Blair, Max von Sydow. Just the way that it's shot in that town brings, again, that real world horror to it, and to have this demon or the devil possess this young girl is so tragic. Some people respond differently to this movie. I saw it first when I was about 15 years old. I was terrified for about a week. It just got under my skin, but it was awesome, and I loved it. And I remember going to college. The movie was being shown at midnight at a local theater, and my roommate and I said, "Hey, you want to go see The Exorcist? Let's go see The Exorcist." Now, I think that she liked primarily romantic comedy type movies, but she was a good sport and she said, sure, let's go. And I'm like, okay. And so we went, and she thought it was hilarious. And I don't think that she's alone in that. I think some people watch the Reagan character and find it funny. And so everybody reacts to this film differently, and that's okay. Meanwhile, speed ahead, years later, I meet one of the most wonderful people in the entire world. And I remember seeing her for the first time, and she asked me, so what's your favorite scary movie? And I said, I think it's The Exorcist. And she was like, oh my God, me too. And she told me how I think she first watched it when she was 5 years old, which shocked me, but she loved it. And it was definitely a favorite of hers, and a very special film. You know, if you want something to get you in the mood for Halloween, go watch The Exorcist. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween. Bye!